think we'll go ahead and get started. We have some people joining. We'll go ahead and go through the webinar. If you've seen some of the photos of the site or have driven by the site, you'll see that it is actively a construction zone. And so we wanted to provide a safe way for us to have this conversation and also get to know some of the people here at the city staff that you'll be working with on this submittal. So without further ado, we'll get started. Quick agenda. We basically are going to take a look at the points that are set forth in the RFP and go through them and see where we get. So we're really excited about this. We've been working on this project in this site for quite some time, and we wanted to just give an overview of where we've been. So in 2016, the Asheville City voters approved a $25 million bond initiative for affordable housing. And of that bond, $15 million was dedicated to the development of city-owned land. And then in 2017, we identified 3 sites that we really wanted to focus on. These sites we felt had the potential for what we called high impact. And what we meant by that was high impact to achieve affordable outcomes that were in locations that provided a type of efficiency, whether it's to build community, whether it's to have access to job centers, proximity to downtown core. So there's 3 sites that we selected as the initial part of this bond initiative. 319 Biltmore. At the time, we had it under option with Duke Energy. Duke Energy was the owner, but the city had it under option. So we chose that site. 91 Riverside Drive is another site that we chose in our River Arts District, as well as the city-owned properties on South Charlotte Street. In 2018, we partnered with consultants Aeck Sargent and also Begle Advisory Group, and we went through a process to develop conceptual visions for each site. So you've probably seen some of those as you thumb through the RFP. And we'll talk about those in some detail later. And then also we performed some pro forma analysis. So here at the city, we really wanted to understand what kind of massing, scale, and density that we could achieve on the sites, as well as understand the pro forma analysis. So really understand, if we were going to encourage the affordability on the site, what was the affordability gap that would need to be covered through a city subsidy or through other types of financing and funding partners as available. So we really wanted to wrap our arms around this. So we were going through the process with our eyes wide open. So we knew how the city could play a role as a partner in this project and how we could really be successful. So that was really why we took some time to really engage in that process, as well as engage the community. So we spent some time on that as well to really understand what the community vision, what opportunities existed for these sites. So in 2019, we kind of then took the next level in setting this foundation with the passage of a policy for developing city-owned land. It's our policies for implementing affordable housing on city-owned land. So that really gave us the policy framework to, one, develop this request for proposals process that you can see before you today, as well as talk about the goals and objectives that we want to see in terms of the affordability outline and the affordability outcomes. So the baseline that we were trying to create with our affordability goals is now set into that policy. And it was also a way in which we could really communicate with our council members so that they grasp the full understanding of what it takes to build affordable housing, which I'm sure a lot of you know and are very familiar with. But we really wanted to ensure that we had a proper foundation to be good partners in this process. So here, that brings us to today. We published the request for proposals, and we're excited now that we can kind of walk you through it. So this is our request for developer proposals. And what we wanted to do is really discuss the opportunity and discuss the process that we hope to use to select a development partner for this site. So we're seeking proposals for us to partner on a mixed income, multifamily housing development, potentially with a mix of uses on the property at 319 Biltmore Avenue. I mentioned earlier that the city had this property under option with Duke Energy, but we are now the owner of the site. The primary intent with this redevelopment effort is to further the city council goals for affordable housing. We also hope to utilize the built environment to strengthen community through a partnership with the Lee Walker Heights to ensure that the community built at 319 Biltmore speaks and resonates with the ongoing development of the 3 Walker Heights property. And we also hope that it's an innovative development, but that the financial returns are something that we can all get to, that we can achieve, that we feel confident in the city's investment into the affordability, and that a developer feels confident in their investments in the property as well. That they can have a solid financial return, and that everyone can have a positive experience through this development. And ultimately, this is to deliver on the promise that was made through the bond initiative. So when the bond was passed in 2016, the city declared that it would utilize those funds to secure and provide more affordable housing to our community. And that is the ultimate intent of this property, is to deliver on that promise to our constituents. So now you'll see also in the RFP, and now I'm kind of giving another picture here. One thing we recognize, and this is also written within our policy, is that we want to be cognizant of what it takes to develop affordable housing. And so with that, we want to have the understanding that we do understand that this land and other potential subsidies may be necessary to develop the kind of density and vision for this site that it will take. And so that is written into our policy, that the land may be conveyed at less than market value in order to achieve the affordability on this site. All right. So let's dig in a little further. So when we talk about affordability, what do we mean? The baselines that were created in our affordable housing policy are shown here on the screen. And also we have a link, it's linked also in the RFP document so that you can go through this policy. But here's kind of the essence of the policy. So, we talked earlier, the policy was written to establish the process for how we would issue a request for proposals, how we would perform due diligence on the sites that we sought to develop for affordable housing. And then importantly, what was our baseline? So here's the baseline, and this is one of the requirements for you as the development community to submit on this property, is that we are looking for a minimum of 20% of all developed units to be affordable to individuals and families at 60% area median income, and to accept housing choice vouchers. We really felt in the creation of this baseline with council's direction that this was where we wanted to head, and this is a minimum. The second part of that is an affordability period of no less than 20 years with a strong preference of 30 years or longer. And what that means and how that typically translates that we've seen in development deals is with deed restrictions or something of that sort, where we have an affordability period that is guaranteed through the use of deed restrictions. So those two pieces are must-have. So that is, to basically get in the door, to be responsive to this request for proposals. Your proposal must demonstrate that you meet these two baselines. And then, of course, we encourage you to exceed the baseline where appropriate. I think what we're wanting to do with this site, again, is to create the affordability, but also, how do we knit together the Lee Walker community? And so we want to achieve these baselines, but also have a strong nod there towards Lee Walker. Okay, so another just bit of information. So the best place to keep updated about this process and to find documents is through our website. So it's asheville.nc.gov/319 Biltmore. I also just want to underscore our timeline. We have not made any changes to the timeline, and we hope to receive your submissions by March 25th. I mentioned earlier about questions. We were still taking questions through writing.
And we can also answer those today, but that deadline is the 25th of February. Then we will post answers in a written format so that everyone can see, and through transparency, can see those questions and see those responses in writing. We'll have those posted on March 9th. We'll post those on the website. And we've already had a significant change to the RFP, and that had to do with the number of pages. Early on, we recognized through some feedback that the limitation of 20 pages was pretty steep, and so we provided some clarification on that point. And so you'll see there, we've included now, when you go to the website, you'll see the updated RFP has this information in the RFP. And so I just want to underscore that our 20-page limit, we've characterized as having a cover letter, statement of interest, qualifications, narrative of the development approach, project description, and the appendices are listed there as well. Team description, org chart, CVs, letters of reference. So hopefully that gives you a little more breathing room and to provide that information to us. Okay, I think at this point we're going to shift into the development vision, and I think and Sasha is going to now start talking about how we created this vision and the ideas there.
Sure. Thanks, Nikki. I'm just going to go over this briefly. And as Nikki already stated, city staff worked with Lord Aeck Sargent and Bleakley Associates on this vision. And really, they were helping us figure out what could we reasonably expect on this site. So the vision that you see in front of you on this webinar and in the RFP is really just a conceptual development vision. We're not expecting people to build exactly this, of course, but it consists of about 310 units, some structured parking, and 10 to 12,000 square feet of commercial space. If you're not familiar with Asheville, just one thing to know is that we are very limited in our land. So density is an important thing. We continue to grow. People are moving here all the time, and so by law, we can't annex land, and we really are hemmed in. So we have to make the absolute most of everything we can within reason. Obviously, cost considerations and views and things like that come into effect. So also, let's see. We also, in the RFP, we provided some precedent images just to give you, an idea. This is an urban project. We're looking for developers who understand urbanism and urban development. We will be looking for some, green spaces and open spaces, community gathering spaces, even if they're on a small scale, are important. And again, that concept that Nikki talked about, knitting with Lee Walker Heights, is really important. We don't necessarily see this as a completely separate community. Also, in that commercial space, that's obviously a flexible thing. And so one thing we have thought about on staff is, are there ways to bring small businesses or partnerships with nonprofits, things that really could serve, 500 new households, counting the Lee Walker Heights redevelopment. How could this help? And we're not, nothing has been predetermined. And we know there's economic limits on that, but we are hoping that folks can be creative in thinking about that space. Moving on to the site context, just pulling back a bit, you can see to the north of this site is our downtown, an area that some people call South Slope. To the south is our hospital district, and just south of that is Biltmore Village. To the east is the Oakhurst community, just south of McCormick Field. We have Bowcatcher Park. And then to the west is the South Side neighborhood and the South French Broad neighborhood. So this is really, right in the middle of everything that's going on. And slowly, over time, this area is becoming an extension of downtown. Downtown is slowly growing toward the hospital district. And then moving in slightly more, you've seen the other construction photos probably, but US 25 is on Southside Avenue in McDowell, and then we have Biltmore. So this site is right between two major arteries, north-south arteries for Asheville.
Sorry.
So I just also, you can see in the development vision or in those concept drawings that there's a new road coming through the site. On this, you can see the words John Walker Avenue. So that road is being built right now at the Lee Walker Heights redevelopment, and the city is investing in the infrastructure in that road and water and sewer that will then be available to whoever develops 319 Biltmore. And that's about all I have.
I'll say a little bit too about the property ownership of the neighbors. So to the west, and I think I can use a corner if you want to follow. Choose a corner. Okay, so we see Lee Walker here. And so this was one of the first RAD conversions that the Housing Authority has undertaken in partnership with Mountain Housing Opportunities. And so that was a 96 units of public housing that were redeveloped into 212 units of housing. And that was a 4% tax credit deal. And so the ownership is held in the Housing Authority, and then the joint venture of MHO and the Housing Authority owns the improvements through Maple Crest. So those are our neighbors there to the west. To the north here, this is the Minnie Jones Health Center. So that is owned by Buncombe County and then leased to this health center for public health on-site clinic. And then here, of course, is the 5.5 acre site. To the south, this property is owned by Mission Hospitals. This is a facility for them to support the work there at Mission. Kind of across the way, Sasha, you want to talk about this property and the plans for
Sure.
this?
So the property directly across where the red dot is has been given approval by City Council for an extended stay hotel, which was a conditional zoning process. And they haven't started construction yet, but over the next few years that will be going up.
Yeah. You want to say something about the conditional zoning while
Sure.
we're on that topic?
Sure. So in Asheville, some of you aren't familiar, I'm sure, with our process, but anytime we have a development application come in for 50 units of housing or more outside of the central business district, which this is outside of the CBD, when it has 50 units or more, it automatically becomes a conditional zoning. So what that means is that City Council is going to be the ultimate approval for that project. So we anticipate that this will be a conditional zoning, and there's some benefits to conditional zoning. It allows you to really tailor that zoning district to your site. So if there are things that are difficult for you to meet or very site specific, there's some flexibility there. And also sometimes maybe you can do X that isn't required, that's a benefit to the community. There's a balance there of how that works. And so staff would work closely, whoever the selected developer is, we'd work closely with them to develop that.
Absolutely. And I think, again, the benefit of some of the work that we've done up front, so the conceptual drawings, we also did a significant community engagement process during that time to listen to the community and understand what some of the concerns or ideas that came forward from the community. So we hope that we've at least primed both council and the community on this vision and on this level of density. Not saying that it'll be easy, but I think just the idea that we've started at least to prime the decision makers as well as the participants in the process, we feel like we've hopefully started that process, and we're happy to work with someone through that as well when we get there. Okay, so we'll move on. So now some information about the due diligence that we've performed. So hopefully you all have seen this or know how to find it. And so what I'm sharing right now is our due diligence package. It appears this way when you access it through our website or through the links that are embedded in the RFP itself. And so what we have tried to do is curate a lot of information about this site to give everyone the benefit of having a level playing field, the broad understanding of some of these details on the site so that you can provide a good response for us, quite frankly. So we have information here, the appraisal, the environmental phase 1s and 2s, a bit about that. So a part of what we saw as the city's responsibility for being a good partner on the front end is to actually go ahead and do some site work. While the Lee Walker Heights project started and was underway, with the new roadway that is coming through the site, it was necessary that some significant grading occur on the property. That being the case, we had the opportunity to go ahead and do some of the soil remediation that was there. And so you'll see that when the phase 1 occurred, we discovered, being that the site was a former Ford car dealership, they also did some mechanicking there. We had a couple spots of soils with the hydraulic lift and a paint mixing room. And we were able, in working with the on-site contractors, to remove all those soils and obtain a clean site. So we're really happy that that's the case, that we now have a clean site for development. And that is reflected in some of those documents that you see there. Of course, the grade is also changing, so that is something else to be mindful of as you see that the Lee Walker project unfold. So we also have other information there. So surveys. The other thing I'd like to point out is our urban design. So in the LAS final reports, so this is where you can get a lot more information about those conceptual drawings that were developed. There's also market research in there that was done at the time in 2018 that was basically supporting the level of commercial that we had put forth in the initial conceptual vision. It also talked about some initial pro formas where the city came to understand what level of subsidies might be required. That is all included within those LAS final reports. So be sure to take a look at those. The other thing that I would encourage you to take a look at is the stormwater plans. You'll actually see the final plans. We're doing some preliminary stormwater work, again, as that grading is taking place. So new stormwater infrastructure will be installed on the property, basically hugging the edges of the property. We're trying to create as many opportunities for simple, easy development as possible. So having some initial stormwater to be installed at the edges of the perimeter of the property was important. And with the new roadway that's being built, that is where new sewer and new water infrastructure will be installed as well. So hopefully that's captured in these documents. Again, if you're seeing this for the first time or you don't know how to access this, go to the website. I'll do a quick demo at the end of the presentation just so you know where to find all these documents and so that you feel that you have everything you need to do the research that you want to do. And there are other links too. We have information about the AMIs in our area, so that's going to help you understand what those affordability numbers need to be. We also have links to our policy documents as well as our funding tools. And I think I'm going to just show some pictures of the site as we see them today. We appreciate this is a live cam that the developers of Lee Walker Heights have across the street. And so we're able to track in real time the progress on the site at Lee Walker. So you can see that some of the framing is taking place, which is incredible, and some of the pads have been poured. And then our Biltmore site is down here closer to Biltmore Avenue. So we'll just do a quick orientation here. So we see Biltmore Avenue. This is the Mission Hospital's property that we mentioned earlier. So our site, the 319 Biltmore site, is roughly within this perimeter. So you'll see we head north as we kind of meet the Buncombe County property here on the northernmost edge. We also kind of take this is our dividing line here, and we'll see some of that grading. And then we also go to the south. So the property extends a little bit here where they've done already some seeding there. We have another picture here too. the site information, a little different viewpoint. So again, I'll orient us just so we see it. So we have Biltmore Ave here running north-south. This is our Mission Hospital facility here. We have Buncombe County here to the north. I drew this blue line, so I hope it represents as closely as possible. It might be a little off, but still it does represent, you can see the old Matthews Ford building, the outline of that old building that has since been demolished. This is where some of that soil remediation has already occurred. You're seeing some of that grading work come from the Lee Walker Heights into this property. So some of that grading work is being done now. That new roadway that we think of is going to meet White Fawn Drive that is directly across the property right here. So that's where that new roadway is going to be. We can start to see some of those. So this is the existing asphalt here where we have the construction trailer for Lee Walker. Kind of see some of those pads. So one quick note, and I hope I get this right, but I believe the timeline for the completion of the Lee Walker construction schedule is going to be spring of 2021. So we are hopeful that we can dovetail these projects very smoothly. From as far as I know, that project is going super well. They're on time, and they've got a great team working out there. So we are very hopeful that as this process to select the developer for 319 Biltmore gets underway, that we will have a smooth transition. So thinking about it, we think of developer selection that's going to occur really heavy in 2020 here. I think we can easily see that we will be in negotiations with a developer this summer. So with our selected developer, we really hope to be in conversation and in distinct collaboration with the selected developer this summer, and hopefully achieving that council approval in the summer, early fall. And then we expect that would go full into the entitlement process. So as the final site designs for 319 are developed, and working with planning on the entitlement process for that conditional zoning, we hope that kickstarts in the fall. And again, we really hope that we're able to have those two timelines dovetail in a smooth way. So that transition will be that the site will be complete for Lee Walker in May of 2021, and we are hard at work on the 319 Biltmore site, ready to kickstart that project, one right after the other. One thing too, with the addition of 212 units here at Lee Walker, and again our densities that we were looking for. Our initial concept was saying on the order of 300 odd units. You can see with a 500 unit new community that is now, that is going to happen here. Oh, interesting. I just saw, if you look right here to, this is Short Cox Avenue that runs here. You can see these new townhomes that are being built here. So lots of interesting development here. We do understand that it might necessitate a traffic signal here. So again, part of being a partner and what we see the city's role as being a partner in this project is to utilize our relationships with NCDOT to smoothly, to allow for a traffic signal here. We want to be partners in that and figuring that out. But we are aware of that reality that it may take a traffic signal here. And frankly, I think a lot of people would be happy to see that. In discussions that we've had with Buncombe County, a lot of stress that they have on site here. If you see the number of cars, the number of people that they have coming into this community or to utilize these services day in, day out, the only ingress and egress from their property is these two spots here and here. They would love the opportunity to really, have ingress and egress on this backside or perhaps through the 319 Biltmore. So I think we have a lot of opportunity to create connections that would benefit this area. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to turn it over to Paul D'Angelo, and Paul's going to walk us through some of the tools and then add anything else that he wants to talk about in terms of affordability. So Paul, you want to take it from here?
Sure, thanks Nikki, and great job Nikki and Sasha, thanks so much. And I'll talk a little bit about incentives here and try to be brief. I did want to mention that it's really exciting to see, I think at one point upwards to 54 people on this call, and I know some of that's staff, but it's really exciting to see this developer interest. I think everyone knows how much we support our local developers, our nonprofit, tax credit, and for-profit developers that are already working in our area, but it's great to see others interested in working in Asheville as our local folks. We can't do it all on our own, and we have that lack of supply, so it's really excited to see so many people on this call. So thanks for that. As Nikki talked about, one of our big incentives that we developed was city-owned land, and she went through that to see how city-owned land can be a part of a development bill that includes affordable housing. So very excited to see that policy move forward, and we've really spent the last year kind of updating some of the policies you see here to see them be more utilized, to be more active with developers. The developers see that these are tools that are simple, usable, and equated to a dollar amount that they can put in their pro forma that helps us with the mix of affordability that we're looking for. So the list is here. We have our Housing Trust Fund, which is the low interest loan program from the city. That's where we can lend. I think the largest we've approved is $1.8 million. We can do interest at 0, 1, or 2% for construction or permanent loan. And those percentages and the amount is kind of based on what you're offering the city in terms of affordability and the build. So that's a good negotiation. But can that money help in this development or other developments? How does this fit in possibly if needed with 319 Biltmore? But information is available there. Land use incentive grant is probably the biggest thing we've updated. That is a property tax grant for in exchange for affordable housing and other community needs that the city of Asheville is looking for. And so that policy has been updated. We've got a matrix there where it's a self-scoring. And based on that scoring, you can see receive X amount of city property tax grants back to you for up to 21 years. So if your current value of a property is $5,000 and after the build it's $105,000 and you qualified for 20 years of property tax grant, we would grant back that difference of $100,000 for 20 years. And how does that fit in on your pro forma to help achieve these affordable units? We also updated fee rebates where you can receive a 50, 75%, or 100% off most of your fees for the affordable units you build. And that also, again, repeating, has been updated. And working with MSD, our Metropolitan Sewer folks, for the affordable units, currently for a regular market unit, I think it's about $1,900, but when you do an affordable unit, I think the charge is only $690, so you've got a savings of about $1,200 per affordable unit, plus the other fee rebates. How does that fit into your pro forma? Again, tying it to a dollar amount that you can use. We have CDBG and home funds, which those application periods have closed on February 7th. But there might be a possibility in this next upcoming year to utilize some of the HUD funding. And also we have expedited review so that if a project includes a level of affordability, which for most part, entering into our policies is what we call 20-80-20. If you are providing 20% of the units at 80% AMI, area median income, for 20 years, it's kind of the door opener to our policies. And it also is the opening for an expedited review. We understand that time is money, but if we can help get the process through a little bit quicker. So those are some of the incentives that we have available. It'll be very interesting to see the proposals we get with the city-owned land being in play for the level of affordability we're looking for in developing this affordable mixed income community, and keeping in mind that the Lee Walker tax credit site is right next door, and how does that all look for a new 500 plus community. So I appreciate that. Those are the incentives. And I want to say quickly, Nikki, if I know we're going to take questions and we're probably at the end of the presentation to take your questions, but I did want to mention that it was really important for us to try to develop an RFP that would received responses back, and we really listened to developers over the last year of what they were looking for in an RFP. So hopefully you all see that, but we're curious about feedback on that. Anyone can email me. I'd really like to hear if you thought it was we don't need the kudos necessarily, like, oh, it's a great RFP, but if you saw some things that were challenging for you as a developer that might make you not want to apply, we'd like to hear about that. Two things we looked at was, a pad-ready site. We've put in, I think, with the land about $7.2 million to make this a pad-ready site. Was something we heard a lot from developers. And the other second big thing was really engaging the community, so no one's walking into an issue. So I wanted to point that out, and I look forward to hearing that feedback as well. Other than that, happy to take any questions, and back to you, Nikki and Sasha.
So thank you, Paul. I think, one thing that I wanted to share too is that so the city just completed our first transaction on city-owned land for the development of a mixed-income affordable community, and that was at 360 Hilliard Avenue, adjacent to the city's Aston Park Tennis Center, with the Cassinger Development Group, a for-profit developer. And I think what I appreciate about that process and managing that transaction is that we were able to put together a deal with a for-profit developer that utilized almost every tool we had. But at the end, the outcome that we're achieving is it's a 96-unit development with almost half of those units being affordable to individuals and families at both 60% AMI and 80% AMI for a period of 50 years. And the stack that we used to get there is that we partnered on the city land costs. So it was a reduction in the city land cost, as well as a housing trust fund loan that came in second position behind the traditional bank financing. There's also a land use incentive grant associated with that property. And then we partnered with infrastructure on that property as well. We're doing a shared parking lot to the rear of the tennis center that will serve the tennis center as well as be overflow parking for the project itself. They also took advantage of our expedited permit review, just meaning that our permit team really handled them with care, and we tried to be as responsive as we could to see that they got through the entitlements. So we feel that and that project closed, or the transaction occurred in December, and they have broken ground and work is underway. So we feel fortunate to have put that deal together and to see that coming out of the ground. And we're just hoping to utilize our experience there to then help 319 Biltmore be a success. So I'll just kind of close, and then we'll transition into questions on just the review and response timeline and what you can expect. So really, the RFP, we hope, speaks for itself. If you just read through and read the criteria, we wanted to be as clear as possible on the objectives and what we hoped would resonate. And so take good care with reviewing that and ensuring that that you've got the information there through the RFP. The submission scoring criteria is listed on page 16. And the majority of that has to do with the experience and capacity that you are demonstrating as a developer and development team. And then also is your approach to the site. So those two things are what we're looking for. Of course, the must-have is to meet and or exceed those baseline objectives. So once we review those submittals, a scoring matrix will be completed, and then we will ask the top ranking responders to join us for an interview. We haven't set those dates yet, likely late April. We might want to get those nailed down as soon as possible. I know everyone's busy with holidays and things like that, spring break coming up. So we'll see if we can forecast that out so that everyone can have that on their calendars. And then once we have those interviews, we hope to work with perhaps the top ranked firm, maybe one or two, but really we want to get down to business at that point and start co-collaborating with the developer on their development approach, as well as what those deal points will be. So we will then enter into exclusive negotiations on the deal terms, as well as what the objectives that we hope to meet with that development and the site plan and what's going to be achieved on the site. And so that will take some time, and I really hope that that will be the fruitful and productive time that we have to work on finessing and finalizing that plan. And then lastly, our city council will approve those deal terms, which will allow us to enter into an MOU, purchase and sale agreement, and then development agreement. So, okay. So I think at this point, we are ready for questions. I see a couple on the chat. And so Paul, you and I both might need to answer that one. So we have the first one came in saying, how did they finance 360 Hilliard? And Paul, you may have to help me with this one. So what I understand is there was an equity investor on the front end, traditional bank financing, and then the city came in a second position with the Housing Trust Fund loan.
He's ready.
We also, again, that subsidy was felt up front through a reduction in the land cost. And then on the back end, we supported their cash flow through our Luigi, which is the tax abatement. And Paul, you want to make some comments there?
No, I think you hit that, and I was trying to look at my notes there. I don't think that there was any special HUD loan involved. The equity investment, traditional bank financing, and then utilizing our tools, like you said, on the front end for the pro forma, but also taking a look at the cash flow with the land use incentive grant. And so, and because of the size and scope of that project, the Cassinger Group was able to make that financing work.
So next question that we have, do we have a retail commercial partner already identified for the potential commercial space? That's a great question. And I have some ideas, but I'm not certain. One thing that I'm holding in my back pocket that I want everyone to be aware of is that the city currently leases our city-owned health. It's our health services facility. So as a part of our benefits of being an employee of the city of Asheville, there's a health clinic that we have access to. This health clinic also does all of the city's drug testing, as well as physical fitness testing for our police officers, as well as our sanitation workers, firefighters, et cetera. They currently lease space about 2 or 3 blocks from this location. I would be super excited to see if there's potential to be a lessee at this property. So if that could work out, I think, the city can control that, which is great. And I think we could control wherever we go. So if there was an opportunity for the city to then relocate that health services facility to this space and it helped to underwrite those costs, I think we would be more than willing to consider it. Also, we do have some ideas on the commercial space. How do community services function there? And I think that will really be ideas that we can explore. And I know we'll need to figure out what kind of financial partners could be available for that. So I think we're open. And again, we're willing to bring to bear our relationships to help figure that out. And also, even if it means our tenancy, right? So we're excited about exploring that. That will really take place. This is what I'm talking about when we say we go into negotiations. That's when I really hope to nail some of those things down. Next question, what is the timeline for the hotel? And we'll have on-site parking. Sasha, do you want to answer that?
I am not sure about the timeline for the hotel. Honestly, in their conditions, I know they had at least 3 years, and if not 5 years, to get that, constructed. So that could string out some. They did have on-site parking. That is a requirement of conditional zonings. And I believe they're wrapping a deck, basically. So not necessarily visible, but there is a parking deck there as a part of that hotel.
So I'm seeing the next question. How many square feet is the health services? I don't have it off the top of my head, but tell you what, we'll take a look at that and we will publish that in a response to the written questions. So we'll move on to the next question. Is there a maximum percentage of affordable units that you have in mind? And I'm going to let Paul D'Angelo answer that question. So is there a maximum percentage of affordable units that you have in mind? Paul.
Thanks, Thanks, Nikki. So this is a very interesting question and a good question. I think everyone's very aware there's kind of no, magic number here in, the perfect affordable mixed income community. But one thing with our goals at the city of Asheville is we don't want to concentrate lower income. So I think it's really important for people to consider the context of being contiguous with the Lee Walker Heights redevelopment of 212 units. We think that's going to be great. It's a tax credit, so mostly under 60%, although I think they've blended in a few 80% AMI units there. So it's very interesting. I think, we've looked at is 30% affordable a good number, and how does the city on land as an investment play into being able to provide about 30% of the units affordable? That said, we're looking forward to the creative deals that might come through, or the proposals to see how they view that. But it's definitely, we certainly need the affordable units. We certainly need them at all moderate and low AMI levels. But we want to make sure that we're developing an affordable mixed income community across the board. So tough question to answer, 30% give or take, but again, we're looking forward to the proposals to see what others think.
Okay. So the next question here, is there a revised grading plan available? So yes, as part of the Lee Walker Heights constructions plans, the plan set, I believe there is a final grading plan. So we'll make sure to pull that and to post it within the due diligence materials. So we'll write that down as a to-do for us. The next question, will the $7.2 million in site costs be expected to be recouped in the development budget? So those $7.2 million in site costs that have already been expended by the city, let it be expected to be recouped. So just a word on that. So $7.2 million, I think it was Paul or Sasha who mentioned that earlier. So really our costs thus far, to be perfectly clear, include a $5.3 million purchase price from Duke Energy. So that was the price in which we purchased the property. That's out the door. We also have spent the remainder of that on site improvements, and that includes both the soil remediation, the stormwater infrastructure to be installed there, as well as the roadway improvements and the sewer and water improvements. So those are the site costs that have been expended thus far. I think the expectation for the site, I think the city has recognized that in order to achieve the affordable outcomes that we want to see, that we will need to be a funding partner in this project. But this is why we want to see how the pro forma functions, because we want our dollars and our investment to be directly attributable to the affordability outcomes. That's basically how we do our work, is that we must be able to account for the city's investment into the affordable outcomes. We have to see that drawn as a clear shot. So I don't think it's really that we want to see our costs recouped, but what I would say is that if a pro forma says that the pro forma needs a city investment of $5 million or a city investment of X, then we want to see how that plays out in the pro forma. We want to see how that $5 million counts towards the number of units that are created. And I hope that answers that question. But really, the things that we need to link is not necessarily recouping our site costs, but that any investment that the city makes is directly attributable to the affordability outcomes. Paul, anything to add there?
Yeah, just briefly. Thanks, Nikki. So the city and working with our great partners at Aeck, Sargent, so thank you guys. But, the city's been able to identify what that approximate subsidy looks like for levels of AMI and over a certain period of time. So as an example, it possibly could be up to an $80,000 subsidy needed for each unit at 80% area median income for 20 years. And while the city's recognized that gap and that subsidy needed, as Nikki said, we're looking forward to the proposals coming forward, because the city, while recognizing that up to $80,000, doesn't necessarily want to be providing all of that subsidies, which is where we need other partners at the table and how they're going to layer this together. So does the city come in, again, no simple formula for this, but does the city come in for half of that or a little bit more than half to show our partnership? And we're really interested to see, we've identified the subsidy, but we're curious to see the proposals coming forward about how these partners, seeing them coming forward with their subsidy that they can bring to the table, with the subsidy they need to make the pro forma work.
So good question. So then here we have the next question. Will the new John Walker Drive be totally constructed upon the completion of Lee Walker Heights? Absolutely, yes. And so I'm thinking that the roadway plans will be included on the final grading plans, or at least in that construction set. And so we'll hope to highlight, but absolutely the water lines will be there, the sewer lines will be there, and the new drive and sidewalk will also be installed. So I'm not seeing any more questions. We're just going to keep our eye on it. But while we kind of start wrapping up here, I just want to make sure that everyone is clear on these resources and that they know where to find them. So I'm just going to exit from our screen for questions. And I just want to orient everyone so that we all understand how to get at these resources. So again, this is our website, and you can get here by going to asheville.nc.gov/319 Biltmore. I'm seeing another question here. So we have Ron asking, any concern with it being damaged? So I'm imagining that it means the roadway. And I'm not sure. Great question. I may have to give that one some thought and think about that. I mean, I think we do expect that the transition will have to be very well coordinated when the new development goes in. And I will say that the city was a financial partner in the development of the Lee Walker Heights. We were really happy to sit at the table with both Buncombe County, the Housing Authority, and the other financial partners in the Lee Walker tax credit project to fill that affordability gap. And so as a financial partner, we've developed a great relationship with that team. And so we do hope that the coordination there will be as smooth as possible. So concerns like that, we hope that we can overcome through the power of our partnership there with the partner development. A good question, certainly. So again, you can navigate to this website, asheville.nc.gov/319 Biltmore, all lowercase, and you'll see that we just have, our happening now. So if we click on this link, it'll take us to the RFP. This is the latest version. So I've actually taken down some of the older versions, and this is the latest. And what I mean by latest, as I said earlier, that page count has changed. So when you see this RFP, you'll see that page count change. And I'm sorry, I'm going to just fly through it because I want to make sure that what I'm saying is correct. But this is, so we have the updated page count. That information is going to be on page 6 there. So you see that is the latest version. Other things on this website. So we have a little bit of background, a little bit of timeline, supporting documents. So again, this is another quick way to navigate to that due diligence package. So when you click on due diligence package, it should take you to that suite of due diligence that we have placed there. So you can navigate to the RFP through this folder and navigate to the 319 due diligence through this folder. And if I double click here, here we go. It should take us there. And again, we can open up any of these and hopefully find, so if we want to take a look at the stormwater plan, we will include that grading plan in this location. So this is, this file set is where you will find that grading plan. And so again, you can navigate and hopefully open that. So, all right. And then I'm looking for any other links here. So we also have our policy for affordable housing, some of the full reports that were done by Lord Aeck Sargent. Those are these documents here. we wanted just to make this as simple as possible. So really, as you go through the RFP itself, these links are also embedded in the RFP. So again, this is the same policy document that's linked on the website. So the City of Asheville policies there. And we also have our due diligence linked here as well. As you saw, I had a little trouble opening that stormwater plan, but I hope it works for you all. So again, you see some of the site information. We also have, some of our research that we've done. So the housing needs update, code of ordinances, and other information like that.
I just wanted to, I think we're getting to the end here. And just before we end, I wanted to mention, going back to that funding question earlier, that this is in an opportunity zone. We're in Census Tract 9. So I'm not necessarily an expert on opportunity zones, but there may be ways for someone to make that help them in their project, in their pro forma. So something to be aware of.
Great. Thanks, Sasha. Yes, that's very important to see if that really helps. So here's the stormwater plan that you can see that will be installed. So hopefully there's a good amount of resources there. Okay. So I'm looking to see, I think it looks as if our questions have come to an end, and it's 11 o'clock, so I think it's about time to wrap up. Again, if you have any more questions, please submit those in writing to Paul D'Angelo. His contact information is contained within the RFP, and we're happy to collate all those questions. I think we're going to go ahead and ensure that we address all these questions also in writing, so you'll get that. And we will also just post this webinar, the presentation, on the website as well. So we were not able to record this webinar today, sadly, but we will make sure that we post it. And so with that, we really appreciate the participation today and appreciate the interest in this site. We hope that we have set the table to have a great partnership, and we hope to see your submittals in March. So thank you all so much. And with that, we'll end the call.